Okay, take it, Bekah.
Hi, y'all. Good afternoon. My name is Bekah Hinojosa. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you all so much for joining this presentation and discussion today. I'm actually calling in from South Dakota. I'm attending a tribal ceremony. It's called Sundance on the Lakota Reservation. I was invited to join and support the ceremony by the Carisoco-Macrudo tribe of Texas, which, if you're not familiar with the Carisoco-Macrudo tribe, they are the original people of South Texas, especially the so-called Rio Grande Valley region. And that's actually where I'm from. And so is Ali, who's on this call. Typically, I'm in the Rio Grande Valley, which is a region on the Gulf Coast of Texas and the border of Texas. But today I'm just calling in from South Dakota. And I'm a community organizer. I live in Brownsville, Texas, which is part of the Rio Grande Valley. I've been doing community organizing work in Texas for over 10 years, mostly around environmental justice issues. And specifically, I've been, organizing with my community to stop what started off as 5 proposed liquefied natural gas export terminals, which are big, massive fracked gas plants that are proposed on our Gulf Coast, and these corporations have plans to process fracked gas and export it overseas from the Brownsville coastline. And so, I've been actively working with the community to stop, 2 LNG export terminals, and also an existing SpaceX facility that's owned and operated by Elon Musk. So it's just some of the big issues in our region that we are actively facing. I'm going to show you all a video, and then we'll have I'll do a brief presentation, and then we'll have a discussion. But since we have just a limited amount of participants, I think it would be a good idea to have just a brief go around. If y'all can come off mute and say your name and pronouns and where you're calling from.
Oh, okay. Amy Sachs, pronouns she, her. You can see a little of Sid the cat next to me. He's a he, him. I'm with the Pacific Green Party. I've lived here since 1988 in Portland, Oregon. Thanks.
Thanks. Nice to meet you. Someone else want to introduce themselves next?
Hi, I'm Rohima Mia. I'm with the North Carolina Green Party. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. She, her pronouns.
I'm Lynn Joy Maribel. I'm the co-chair in Maine, and I use she, her.
Hi, I'm Craig Cayetano. I'm one of the steering committee members. I'm from Green Party, New Jersey, as well as state co-chair, and I go by he, him.
Hi, I'm Allie Schmidt. I'm involved in the national committee that helped put on this conference, the annual national meeting committee. And I am also a volunteer with the state party in Texas, and I'm the chair of my county party in South Texas, Hidalgo, Texas. And I go by she, her.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eddie Espinosa, and I'm calling from the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, and I'm a member of the Hidalgo County, Texas Green Party. Nice to meet everyone. I go by he.
Hi, I'm Charisse Cordero. I'm calling from Santa Barbara, California. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm on Santa Barbara County Council. Thank you.
Anyone else want to introduce themselves, name, pronouns, and where you're calling in from?
Oh, Robin was speaking, but it was really hard to hear you. Robin, can you speak up or get closer to your microphone or something? Maybe change it. Oh, there you go. That's a little better, I think.
Yeah, I think I need to be next to my speaker in order to. I'm Robin Vargas, live in Alamo, but I'm near the McAllen area. I know Allie, Bekah, and hopefully soon I'll meet Eddie. I go by she, her pronouns. Is that good enough, Allie?
Hi, I'm Laura Potts. I am she, her. I'm the co-chair of the Florida Green Party. Nice to meet everyone.
Any other introductions? I see Haryaksha. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm late coming. I gave up and went over to another one of the workshops, Mark Dunley's, but I think I've been there before. Nice to be here. I'm currently living up in Travis County, Austin, or just west of Austin on Lake Travis. And it's only a temporary gig, but it's great to see so many Texans. I haven't met a single one in person except for at a meet and greet, a new guy who's not really registered Green, but he came to see what the Green Party is all about. And I'd like to tout two books by Naomi Oreskes and Peter Turchin. Look those people up, will you? Oreskes, Naomi Oreskes, The Collapse of Western Civilization. And then Peter Turchin's End Times. And I think it'll inform any of our Green Party pillars and values and discussions and campaigns. I recognize some of y'all and I'll pass it on. Who hasn't gone yet?
Could you possibly put those two books on the chat, please?
Yeah, will do. They're I think real important. The Peter Turchin is 2023, but the Naomi Oreskes is a few years old, still current.
Oh, hello. Hi. I don't know why I was kicked out of the meeting. I have, Wi-Fi and cell phone signal, but can y'all hear me?
There does sound like there's a little interference. Do other people hear that sort of beeping or bumping type noise? Oh, wait, maybe it's just stopped. It's that Bekah muted or something.
Sorry, that was me. I'm
was
not
that you?
muted and I was typing in the chat, sorry.
Oh, okay, good.
So yeah, if everyone who's not talking can please mute themselves, that would be great. That would stop background noise.
But now
Okay, can y'all hear me? Okay, yeah, I'm not sure why I was kicked out. I have Wi-Fi and full cell phone signal, so that was strange. So I'm sorry about that, y'all. But yeah, thank you so much for introducing yourselves. I think if we missed anyone, we can come back to introductions later during Q&A and discussion. But the host of this meeting, are you here? Do you have the link to the Democracy Now! Video available?
Yes, I do. And, we were having some overall technology issues. So I have the video queued up and I'm going to give it a shot now. Are you ready for that?
In 1 minute. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to show a video clip from Democracy Now! Earlier this year, I was featured on Democracy Now! And I gave a presentation about what's going on in the Rio Grande Valley. And it was on April 20th that I gave a presentation on Democracy Now! Because on April 20th, Elon Musk launched the Starship Super Heavy rocket, which is the largest rocket in human history. It was his first attempt testing it, and it exploded and rained dust particles on Port Isabel, on South Padre Island, also into Brownsville. That rocket launch was devastating, burnt down, scorched the ground, and burned another several acres of wildlife refuge, which has been repeatedly happening. A lot of people thought, that this was just one major explosion event, when in reality, SpaceX has caused numerous explosions in our community for years. And this latest one on April 20th was just even bigger and more terrifying than what we've already been dealing with. And, SpaceX has been temporarily grounded because of a lawsuit, because of, the FAA going through a review. And, regardless of that, pause by the FAA, Elon Musk still continues to test the engines. His daily activities actively, are still decimating wildlife refuge land, is also destroying sacred sites of the Carrizo-Comotudo tribe, which they have never been consulted by Elon Musk or SpaceX about their operations, near the lower Rio Grande Valley Wildlife Refuge on Boca Chica Beach. And so that's just briefly, what my presentation on Democracy Now! Touches on. It'll also explain other details around the rocket launch. Unfortunately, April 20th was also when the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission went and reapproved two proposed LNG export terminals called Rio Grande LNG and Texas LNG, as well as the adjacent Rio Bravo pipeline. So, April 20th was, absolutely devastating for our community. It signals to us that, industrialization is just increasing in our community in size and scale. So we'll go ahead and play that video. I'll elaborate a little bit more about what we've just seen, and then we'll open it up for question and answer and discussion, which I already see y'all are asking questions. So thank you so much. Go ahead and press play, please.
One moment. Okay. Yeah, I am having technology issues. I had to switch the gear I was going to use. So that is part of the reason I think I'm having a hard time screen sharing right now. Can I select Craig if I enable screen sharing for you? Would you be able to screen share? Are you on technology that would enable that at this time?
I can. Is there a video that I would need a file to?
I just dropped the link for the Democracy Now! Video. I could drop it again if you don't see it. If you scroll up, you should see, do you see a?
I see it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Come off here.
I'm just going to make you a co-host. Thank you much.
No problem. Give me 1 sec. I'll get that going.
We turn now to South Texas, where Elon Musk SpaceX is claiming success after the first launch of its massive new rocket dubbed Starship. The two-stage prototype lifted off Thursday morning from SpaceX's sprawling base on Texas's Gulf Coast near the U.S. border with Mexico, becoming the largest and heaviest machine ever to fly under its own power. At least 6 of the rocket's 33 engines failed during flight. The vehicle self-destructed over the Gulf of Mexico about 4 minutes after liftoff. Residents of Port Isabel, near the launch site, reported particulates or ash rained down on their neighborhoods. The fiery end to the launch was the latest in a series of explosions around SpaceX's launch site near the lower Rio Grande Valley National Wildlife Refuge. This comes as 3 liquefied natural gas projects in the Rio Grande Valley were just approved by FERC, that's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Indigenous environmental and community organizers responded Thursday to the SpaceX launch and explosion and denounced the new projects. This is Christopher Bassaldu.
Pipeline and SpaceX, none of these companies consulted with the original people of this land, the Cabisopomecrudo tribe of Texas. None of them consulted with the tribe. None of them have our consent, but yet they still want to destroy native homelands, ancestral homelands. We never gave our consent, and they're moving forward. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, they never consulted with the tribe. They don't have our consent, and they're moving forward anyway. That's not justice. They're enabling Musk to destroy our lands and destroy this beautiful area. It needs to stop. These are all the histories of colonial genocide against Native people and Native lands.
For more, we're joined in Brownsville, Texas by Bekah Hinojosa, an environmental and community advocate with the Grassroots Collaborative. Another Gulf is possible. She's one of the many people who spoke out against SpaceX and faced repression and persecution. Last year, police broke into her home and arrested her after she was accused of spray painting the words gentrified and stop SpaceX under a mural in downtown Brownsville. She's still fighting these charges. Bekah Hinojosa, welcome to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. So yesterday, Elon Musk declared success when his SpaceX rocket exploded. Now, actually, though he was, of course, mocked by many, what does a failure mean if your rocket explodes out of control? Scientifically, it's a chance to test different ways of trying to shoot off this rocket. But you're on the ground. If you can talk about what SpaceX means for your communities.
You know, we're tired of living under the constant threat of flammable, rocket explosions because of SpaceX. Elon Musk is on his quest to colonize Mars, and he's beginning by colonizing, our community that's on the front lines of the U.S.-Mexico border, that's on the front lines of the Gulf Coast, where we're dealing with layers and layers of injustices. Our community is opposed to SpaceX's operations. Yesterday, 27 organizations from the Rio Grande Valley signed on to a letter officially opposing the rocket launch.
So talk about who controls where he does this work? And in fact, does he choose this area of Texas and the Mexico border because of the deregulation of Texas and the fact, what kind of regulation does he face and what kind of consent is required, if any, of the local community?
It's very clear that Elon Musk moved into our border community to take over, to colonize the region. We're clearly being exploited by a billionaire and his pet project. We are a low-income community of color, and Texas has a long history of deregulation, of just rubber stamping permits and approvals for any big industry. And also give out numerous tax subsidies. That's what we've seen with SpaceX. He's moved into our community and, turned us into a testing ground. It's at the point now where, I hear a noise, my family and I, we wonder, is that SpaceX? And we come to find out that the rumble is because of a rocket launch, or I, hear a huge explosion or blast from 10 miles away, and it turns out that SpaceX has done some kind of unannounced rocket testing. We're constantly dealing with just the growth of SpaceX and their operations.
So Bekah, last year you were violently arrested after police broke into your home without showing you a warrant. You were detained for more than a day, for 26 hours. Police took your glasses. They placed you in a cold cell after you were interrogated, charged with a misdemeanor, accused of spray painting these words, gentrified and stop SpaceX, under a mural in downtown Brownsville. The outgoing Brownsville mayor, Trey Mendez, posted a photo of you on his social media, thanking the police for your arrest. He also wrote, quote, Ms. Hinojosa has been quoted in several anti-SpaceX articles. Can you talk about the former mayor Mendez's ties to SpaceX and how local officials have come after environmental and community advocates like you over opposition to SpaceX? You're still fighting these charges?
I'm still fighting to have this charge dropped against me. SpaceX is growing into our community. SpaceX and Elon Musk are actively handing out money here and there, and it's becoming political hush money. It's buying out politicians. We've seen when a SpaceX testing goes wrong, which it always goes wrong, and burns down wildlife refuge, political officials just turning the other way. And, I've been personally impacted now by, SpaceX buying out community members, buying out politicians, when, last year, 4 police broke into my apartment. When I asked for a warrant and tried to put on my shoes, they threatened me with resisting arrest. They jailed me for 26 hours. And then I come to find out once I'm released that Mayor Trey Mendez, who's still in office, for the next month, has doxed me. He posted my mugshot on his official Facebook page.
He's the current mayor.
He is the current mayor. His term ends in May. He's chosen not to run for re-election. And I've come to find that the mayor has doxed me. He published my mugshot on his official Facebook platform. He posted my job, trying to get me fired. He singled me out and targeted me because I've been speaking up about the dangers of SpaceX for years. And what this means is that, the city is signaling to us that, any community organizer speaking up could be next. They're targeting community activists, and we're actively rallying and pressuring the city to investigate Mayor Mendez for abuse of power. We won't tolerate elected officials singling out and targeting and doxing community members. The city is signaling to us that they're selling out to a private space industry.
Talk about how the environment has been impacted. For people who are watching TV to see the SpaceX launch, you see in the upper left, Boca Chica. Talk about Boca Chica, where the fresh waters of the Rio Grande trickle into the Gulf of Mexico, the beaches and protected lands such as the Lower Rio Grande Valley National Wildlife Refuge near SpaceX.
Yeah, I want to make it clear that Boca Chica Beach was never for sale. Elon Musk has come and colonized our region. Boca Chica Beach is, part of a state park. It's part of near the Lower Rio Grande Valley Wildlife Refuge. It's part of an international wildlife corridor that's very important for, species to migrate for genetic diversity. Boca Chica Beach and the entire region is also sacred lands of the Carizo tribe. And, families have been going there for generations to fish. Boca Chica Beach is considered the poor people's beach because it's for local people that don't have to pay fees to enter and can go fish to feed their families. It's also where the Carrizo-Comocrudo tribe hold their sacred ceremonies. And Elon Musk and SpaceX have been using their private police force and the local police to turn people away. So he can host his press conferences and parties and test dangerous rocket equipment. That's what we've been seeing. Some of the routine testing has caused, over 60 acres of the wildlife refuge to burn down, has sparked grass fires. We've seen threats and deaths of migratory birds and endangered species like the ocelot.
I also wanted to ask you about this point that we raised in the lead as well, and that is last year, the Federal Aviation Administration determined that SpaceX's plans for orbital launches would have no significant impact on the Gulf Coast region. The FAA's ruling came after SpaceX founder Elon Musk accused the agency of having a fundamentally broken regulatory structure after it didn't rapidly approve an early Starship test flight. The FAA has also reportedly faced pressure from major SpaceX contractors, including NASA, Pentagon, and the National Reconnaissance Office, all of whom rely heavily on SpaceX to launch satellites and astronauts to orbit and beyond. NASA selected, for example, a version of SpaceX's Starship as a lander for its upcoming Artemis 3 mission, which aims to return astronauts to the moon for the first time in half a century. So they're using this private company for the Pentagon, for the FAA, for all of this NASA work.
No, it's very clear that Elon Musk and SpaceX has become, is becoming too big to hold accountable, and is getting away with harming our community. What we need are, real solutions. We need investments, in Earth, the problems we have here on the planet, climate change, and instead we see our tax subsidies go towards a billionaire's pet project, for a billionaire to go, to space as part of this sci-fi adventure.
I wanted to finally ask you about the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission approving the Rio Grande LNG, Texas LNG, liquid natural gas, and the Rio Bravo pipeline Thursday, just hours after the SpaceX explosion. These projects are within a few miles from SpaceX and have faced fierce opposition from groups like yours. Talk about what's at stake and with these projects, especially in the Rio Grande and the Gulf of Mexico's area of the country that are in the front lines of the climate crisis.
Yeah, we're dealing with layers and layers of environmental disasters here in the Rio Grande Valley. Communities, I've been fighting back to stop these LNG terminals for nearly a decade. Rio Grande LNG, Texas LNG, and the Rio Bravo pipeline plan to build, next door to SpaceX within 6 miles. And we're terrified of the very real threat that exploding rockets next to giant tanks of gas, next to giant tankers of gas, where we've already seen, rocket shrapnel raining even further past 6 miles. And we're being left in the dark. We haven't heard from regulatory agencies about the flammable risks. And communities here have made it absolutely clear that we oppose these LNG export terminals. All of our communities have passed anti-LNG resolutions, Port Isabel, South Padre Island, Laguna Vista, Long Island Village, because of, the threat of flammable explosion from SpaceX, because this would completely destroy our way of life. We are one of the last little pieces of the South Texas coastline that doesn't have refineries or flare stacks. LNG would completely change our way of life for the worse.
Well, Bekah Hinojosa, I want to thank you for being with us, environmental and community advocate with the Grassroots Collaborative. Another Gulf is Possible. Coming up, we go to Yemen, a leading human rights activist.
Great. Thank you all so much for showing the video and sharing your screen and showing the video. Yeah, that was just a brief overview of, the status of the LNG terminals that we've been fighting against for nearly a decade, the existing SpaceX operation here on our coastline. Since April 20th, there have been a few updates. I mentioned that the FAA has paused activity at SpaceX. There's also a very active lawsuit right now. Several community organizations, the Carizo Comacrudo tribe, conservation groups are suing the FAA around destruction of sacred sites, threats to wildlife. So that lawsuit is making really great impact against SpaceX operations, and that's part of why there is a pause on SpaceX operations. And there's also another lawsuit by other community organizations around SpaceX actively closing the beach. So every time SpaceX has construction activities, or I mentioned a press conference party with Elon Musk and his bros, they close what's called Highway 4 or Boca Chica Highway from the public. They close off the beach from the Carizo Comacrudo tribe, from communities of color, from brown folks that have been going there for generations to fish, to feed their families, to show their kids a good time. So there's another active lawsuit there around closing the beach for the public. And around LNG, there's also another active lawsuit to try to stop construction of the LNG projects. And unfortunately, one of these projects, Rio Grande LNG, has already been bulldozing the site for almost a year now, has already been bulldozing sacred artifacts, tearing down wetlands and mudflats, for over a year. And now we're trying to prevent them from building any structures on that land, on that sacred land that is right in the middle of a wildlife corridor. So that's the status of where those projects are now. I also, as I mentioned in the video, am facing a legal situation, facing a misdemeanor for alleged fee-spraying anti-SpaceX graffiti on a mural by Elon Musk. And unfortunately, I do have court on August 10th, so in a couple of days, flying back home and having to stand before a judge once again. So there is a petition that you can sign and share. I'll post a link to the petition in the chat. Please show your solidarity and sign this petition urging the district attorney and the city of Brownsville to immediately drop the charges against me. Oops, I accidentally sent that to one person and not to everyone. Let me type that again. I see a lot of great messages directed at me, a lot of great comments, questions in the chat. Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and open it up for Q&A. Does anyone have a question they want to ask? They want to come off of mute? Or a comment they want to share?
I see Amy's hand up. Amy, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, sure. Bekah, thanks for your reporting and what you've been doing. I'm just wondering if along with the petition, do you need to raise money for your legal bills, or do you have good representation already?
So I do have a really great lawyer. Her name is Sarah Stapleton Barrera. The other thing around, I do need funds to help campaign to get the charges dropped. So things like, giving people gas money to come out to my court hearings, or buying people some pizza after they go and make public comments to the city officials. Or we've also been like bird dogging. If y'all are familiar with the term bird dogging, is basically like going directly up to political officials and talking to them about the charge I'm facing and demanding that they drop it. So things like, paying for some registration fees so people can talk one-on-one to people in power and ask them to drop the charges. So I do have a link to a place where y'all can donate. Yeah, any bit of money helps. If it doesn't go towards campaigning to drop my charge, it'll go towards like posters or signs or something to stop SpaceX. Thanks, y'all. I'll post that in the chat. Other questions or comments? I saw someone from McGregor is here. If you want to share your experience in Bastrop.
Is that me, Huriaksha, you're talking to, Bekah?
Yeah, I saw someone post that they live in McGregor and they're dealing with Elon Musk's operations there. And I saw someone else post about Bastrop. I don't know if that was two different people or one person, but if you want to share like your experience, that would be great.
Okay, well, I'll start, and then Ali, maybe you can talk about Bastrop. Elon is just putting his tentacles out everywhere. You know, that EV factory or I don't know what is crawling around. A Boring Company is too there. Now, as far as McGregor, I think that's up by Bryan or Waco High School. And I learned about this a few years ago from a retired rocket scientist in Prescott. She wanted to blow the whistle on Elon Musk, and her lawyers advised her, don't, he has deep pockets, they'll just destroy you. So, you know, she followed their advice. Bekah, you're standing up against this behemoth. You know, it's got to be done. And my rocket scientist friend simply wasn't in a position to do it. But she says the particulates, she knows all about these test launches. These particulates are spewing, you know, it's kerosene right onto the high school grounds, and is not allowed. And yet Musk does it with impunity. That's all I really know about the McGregor High School situation. Over.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Any other questions
Eddie,
or comments?
Oh, sorry, I see that Eddie has their hand up.
Yes, I had a quick question. Like on the LNG terminals, there are Mexican investors in this too, right?
It's primarily European banks. There's an Australian bank, a Japanese bank, you know, Saudi Arabia, some major investors there. Yeah, mostly, you know, just like a whole international, whole bunch of international financiers and like hedge funds giving money.
Okay. And then my second question is these LNG plants, are they going to be getting natural gas from Mexico, or is it just strictly from Texas?
Yeah, so it's primarily from Texas, specifically fracking that's taking place in the West Texas Permian Basin. So up there near Midland, you know, north of the Big Bend area, there's a huge oil and gas field called the Permian Basin. So that's where a lot of the fracking takes place. And then these companies have plans to pipe it all the way down to the Rio Grande Valley via pipeline network. That one of those pipelines includes the Rio Bravo pipeline.
Now the Rio Bravo pipeline, that's strictly in South Texas.
Right, so there are plans to build the Rio Bravo pipeline from Agua Dulce pipeline hub near Corpus Christi. So there's an existing pipeline hub there where all these different pipelines connect to bring gas. And it's about 140 miles north. So the Rio Bravo pipeline would hook into that pipeline hub from Agua Dulce, Texas, and then, you know, run 140 miles down to the port of Brownsville.
One more thing, Ms. Hinojosa, is there anything we can do to apply pressure to Vicente Gonzalez? Because he has really sold out the Rio Grande Valley to the highest bidder. And what can we do to let him know, we know what you did and we know what you're doing? Because it seems like he's just getting off scot-free. You know, I mean, the representation at the federal level for the Rio Grande Valley is a joke, and you put it perfectly. They're colonizing us here in South Texas, And, you know, and then we're under a lot of pressure where Governor Abbott wants to turn the whole state of Texas into, you know, exporting LNG. So how can we put pressure on Vicente Gonzalez?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned in my Democracy Now! Speech, you know, the local communities here are very against the LNG projects, Port Isabel, you know, Laguna Vista, Long Island Village, El Padre Island. They're all, those local officials are very against LNG, but it's the Cameron County commissioners, the Port of Brownsville commissioners, Vicente Gonzalez, you know, those are the folks that are selling us out to big oil and gas. So I know Vicente Gonzalez has sent a letter of support for these LNG terminals. He like completely turned his back on us. Philemon Vela also sent a letter of support for these LNG facilities. And then after he left office, went on to become a lobbyist for the Port of Corpus Christi to bring in even more fossil fuel industry into that port. So there's this issue of just, you know, revolving doors, you know, these, you know, Democrats, Republicans, political officials just continuously selling out their constituents. And yeah, absolutely. Any opportunity you all get to confront them about, you know, their involvement with these LNG projects and they need to immediately withdraw, please do it. There was the big parade in Brownsville earlier this year, the Chado Days parade, and you know, Vicente Gonzalez was there, a bunch of, you know, political officials were on floats. We were out there with no LNG, no SpaceX, no border wall, no ICE signs. And I also have a report in English and Spanish that you all can find more information and facts about the LNG fight. You can use that report to email or call these political officials directly. So that's just some of the ways that you can immediately take action.
I see
I'm happy
that,
to follow up with that info. Great.
Oh, sorry. I see that Maureen Doyle has their hand up.
Hi. I just wanted to share my experience. I don't know if it's the same. I live in Massachusetts, so I don't know if things would be the same in Texas. We had an LNG facility go in. We fought it for years. One thing that you can do is be a part of a citizen group, and it's apply for it. We have something called the Department of Public Utilities. So I applied for it through that, and I got in because I'm on the Conservation Commission. But then they'll give you, you're part of the email chain of things that go on there, and you can comment on it. It may not be the best thing in the world, but it's something. So I would encourage anybody down there to do that.
Yeah, if anyone wants to get involved with the fights to stop SpaceX, LNG, you know, please, you know, reach out to me or even Allie, who's on this call. Send us your contact information. We'll keep you connected. There are always different things you can do, like a rally, a protest, a petition. You know, we're always coming up with new ways to challenge these projects and stop them from being built. Other questions or comments?
I have a question, Bekah, if no one else does, specifically regarding the LNG terminals. And you mentioned the European and international banks funding the project. I think in the past, there was some success lobbying some of the banks to divest and back out of projects like this. Is that an angle that you or the groups that you're working with are focusing on, or is there something else that's the main pressure point right now, specifically for the LNG, blocking those LNG terminals?
Yeah, so for the LNG projects right now, there are 2 new lawsuits that were just filed. So that's one avenue, right? It's the legal fight. The other thing we're doing is actively pressuring banks to withdraw from these projects, and we've had some victories there. Our coalition successfully got a French bank called BNP Paribas to walk away from one of these LNG projects. We were able to get another French bank called Société Générale to walk away from another one of these LNG projects. And unfortunately, there are other banks that have gotten involved, a Japanese bank and an Australian bank. And so we are putting together some new online petitions that people can sign that, go to the bank officials' email addresses and flood their email inboxes. And when our coalition, we do have meetings with some of these bank officials one-on-one, where we, educate them about what's going on in the valley, let them know that we're angry, we're going to apply pressure, and that they're damaging their reputation by getting involved with these projects. So when we have those meetings, we deliver those petitions that you all sign. So, I will share some of those petition links soon. We're putting together a new one that you all can sign, and we are planning to meet with some more banks. We've also done things like protests outside some of these bank headquarters, which a lot of their bank offices are not in the valley, unfortunately. They're like usually in major areas like Houston or Dallas or New York. So if you know anyone in those big cities that's near one of these bank branch offices, there's an opportunity for us to coordinate some kind of joint action. Thanks, y'all.
Sorry, I wasn't on mute. This is Hinojosa. Bekah, do we have your email address somewhere?
I can go ahead and put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, anything else folks want to note or ask?
You mentioned the ocelots just in passing in the Democracy Now! Video. And I want to say that I'm a transplant to South Texas. And when I got here, I heard people talking about the ocelots and how there's a special animal that lives down here. And people were proud of their ocelots. And someone even suggested, oh, you can go to such and such nature refuge if you want to see the ocelots. And then I asked around, actually I looked it up, Googled it, and I believe there's very few left in the wild, like maybe 40 to 60 left in the wild, and they're highly, highly endangered. And I believe part of their habitat is in the wildlife sanctuary that Elon Musk is blowing up with his rocket testing. So I just, as an outsider, I didn't know very much about the ocelot. I didn't even know they were cats at first. They're a very interesting animal that's native to South Texas. So not just Bekah, but I think there's others on the call from South Texas. Can anyone talk more about the ocelots and their history, their endangerment, and what, if anything, is being done to try to save those cats?
Yeah, I can share. Thank you so much for bringing up the ocelot. There are numerous endangered and threatened species that are just being actively impacted by Rio Grande, the LNG projects and SpaceX. Rio Grande LNG has already been destroying land for almost a year, and they've been, removing the Texas tortoise and rehoming them is what they call it, which is just absolutely ridiculous. The LNG projects and SpaceX, like I mentioned, are in the middle of an international wildlife corridor. And what I mean by that is that there are just several wildlife refuges that are meant to connect and help species migrate from Mexico into the US so that they can, reproduce, have genetic diversity, so that they can thrive and have more land. Those wildlife refuges are the Lower Rio Grande Valley Wildlife Refuge, the Laguna Atascosa Wildlife Refuge, Boca Chica State Park, other tracts of wildlife refuge land. All of this is under threat by these LNG projects and SpaceX because they're literally building, right next door to these wildlife refuges. They're spewing pollution into these wildlife refuges. They would spew even more. SpaceX has already burned down a lot of the wildlife refuge, scorched the earth. And, conservation groups did file a lawsuit to fight for the protection of the ocelot. Just pointing out that the LNG terminals would just destroy ocelot habitat. And unfortunately, we lost that lawsuit. Just another example here about how the federal government is just ignoring protection of threatened and endangered species. And like Ali mentioned, there are less than 50 of them. You know, in Texas, which ocelots only come as far north as in 2 places in the entire US, the Valley and one other place, I think in Arizona. So, you know, this is just a very important species that is just being ignored. Other species include like the Oplomato falcon, the rib-capped red-leaf sea turtle. I mean, we have a very unique wildlife habitat here, which less than 3% of our wildlife remains intact in the valley, and much of it has been destroyed for development. So, you know, fighting for protection of what we have left is just really, you know, very vital and important.
And Charisse Cordero had their hand up.
Yes, thank you very much. I was just going to answer the ocelot question. There's about a few dozen of them left in South Texas, from what I understand, but they are found throughout Central Mexico Central and a lot of South America. That doesn't, you know, so they're kind of endangered in that area, but you'll find them in other places. That doesn't mean we shouldn't protect them, but there's not just 40 of them left. There's 40 of them left maybe in Texas, just like the jaguar. You know, the jaguar comes north into the United States territory, but there's only a few of them, but you'll find many, many more of them south of the border. So that's just one little factoid I just wanted to put out. But it would be really nice if there was a great population of ocelots back in Texas. I don't live there, but I love ocelots too.
Someone in the chat was asking about the environmental impact of the wall. And Bekah, I think you have expertise, the border wall, I mean. And I know, Bekah, I'm pretty sure you have expertise on that as well, both the environmental impact and maybe since we're a unique border region, you might just want to speak generally about, you know, the wall, immigration, and the situation of the border. I think people from around the country would be interested to hear your perspective on that.
Oh man, yeah, the border wall has just been ongoing through so many different administrations, ongoing like for more than half of my life. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, ripped through communities, divided communities. Some of my family members are buried very close to the border wall, which is very heartbreaking for me personally. And yeah, I mean, the border wall is huge ecological impact, you know, has already disturbed other burial sites, has been, you know, a lot of Native American laws that protect Native American sites have been waived just to build the border wall. So again, you have the Carrizo Comacrudo tribe who have been fighting also to stop the wall, which is destroying the sacred land. And is also a huge threat, like once against the ocelot, to migratory bird species, to migratory, you know, butterflies. I think some of y'all may have heard of the National Butterfly Center that's been fighting the wall and border militarization for a very long time, and have had their own legal challenges, and that's still ongoing. They often post photos of Border Patrol agents like trampling onto their sanctuary and, you know, destroying you know, migratory bird habitat there. Does anyone else want to share? I mean, there's just been so many stories. Right now, there's that issue now with like Greg Abbott putting buoys in the river, you know, further up the border, not in the Rio Grande Valley, but you know, that's also been threatening people's lives. I mean, there's so many stories about the border wall. Anyone else want to share?
Eddie's hands up. Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah. How can we get the federal government to look at these contracts that Governor Abbott is handing out. Because I'd be curious to know how much he's spending on these buoys and who exactly is getting this money. I mean, not only the buoys, but also the Constantine wire and all these other walls that they're putting up. Like, it'd be nice to see who's getting these contracts.
Well, that's a good question. I just saw in the news around election time that Governor Abbott was taking in big donations from people from, not even Texans, people from out of state, and then turning around and giving those same people big contracts for border security projects. And we should be clear that there's something called, I think it's called Project Lone Star or something like that. There's a special initiative by the Texas government to do so-called border security, and they have essentially a giant slush fund of billions of dollars that they're using to hand out money for, in many cases, untested projects or unproven projects of unproven efficacy, like this ridiculous thing they're doing, floating buoys and razor wire in the middle of the river. Now, the Mexican government has said, wait a minute, you don't own the whole river. The line, the border line is technically down the middle of the river. So if the buoy is in the middle of the river, half of the buoy is on the Mexican side, and the Mexican government has raised their concerns about that system for humanitarian reasons, for environmental reasons, and because it's not American territory to put the buoys there. But I think Eddie's point is excellent, that we activists on this issue need to follow the money and see who's getting these contracts and what ties they inevitably must have with Abbott or Texas Republicans. Especially someone put a link to an article that two bodies were found, two dead bodies, of course, were found tangled up in the buoys that are near a town. I think it's called Eagle Pass, which is northwest of where some of us are here in the Rio Grande Valley. But that's another hot spot for the border, Eagle Pass. And activists said this is dangerous, you're going to kill people doing this, and they did it anyway. And now there's dead bodies that have just been found. I don't know, anyone else? Robin, you're also from the Valley. Do you want to talk at all about the border or the environment or anything else going on down here? Oh, except it's hard to hear you. Can you get closer to your speaker like you did before?
Hi, yeah, I'm next to it. Can you guys hear me pretty well? Just kind of reflecting off what Bekah said and the ocelot, that is the Santa Ana refuge. It's here in Alamo, all the way down Alamo Road, but they are endangered. We used to be the home of like 7 different cats, I believe, but throughout the years, they've become very less in population. I do follow Bekah's journey. I learned about it, I think, last year, and I've been trying to go to all her protests. And if I can't go, I'll try to make signs or let people know that are from Brownsville to join in on the party. But hopefully I can go out there on the 10th. Happy to hear all this because I just had a friend mentioning that Tesla is now in Austin, and they ended up making it in a place that is not very populated with wealthy people. It's like a poverty spot. I know somebody else was mentioning that. So he's just all over the place, and we need to do everything we can to try to at least take back what is ours and what belongs to us and what belongs to nature. So I'm glad I was able to be here and hear echo. Oh, sorry, there's an echo, guys. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks, Ali.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and for supporting the effort to drop the charge against me. I appreciate you. We only have a few minutes left, and I just want to say thank you all so much for joining. And please let me know if there are any links or more information I can share about all these different issues. My email address is in the chat, so please email out to me. And I just want to say thank you all so much for joining. And the fights continue on. We're doing everything we can. We have been doing everything we can for years to stop the LNG terminals from moving forward, to stop the spread of SpaceX and the takeover by Elon Musk, not just in the valley, but all over Texas, right? He's descended upon Texas like a plague, like a locust. And we'll continue to be watchdogs, to challenge this industry, to challenge political officials, and fight for environmental justice and a healthy future for our community. So please reach out. I want to thank the host. If you have anything you want to share, anyone else from the Green Party leading this presentation.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Bekah, for all you do and for taking the time out, considering everything that you have going on, with your court case. And definitely, everyone, please spread the word so we can show Bekah some support for all that she's been going through. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks y'all. And thank you. Shout out to Ali for inviting and having me here at this panel. I appreciate you. If there's anything else you want to share, Ali, like plug the local group and the work you're doing.
Oh yeah. Well, I do want to return the appreciation, Bekah. Thank you for doing this, especially given your schedule. And I would urge everyone, please sign Bekah's petition. And please, if you could copy and paste the link to the video that we all watched earlier, and please share it with your social networks, not only to get the word out, but also we want that video to get as many views as possible, and hopefully Democracy Now! Will invite Bekah back to speak more on these issues when they see that her video is gaining traction and getting a lot of attention. And then as far as events in South Texas, I am working to recruit candidates. So anyone who knows Texans who might want to run for office, please get in touch with me. And I guess I better I'll put my email in the chat real quick. But this, I want to keep the focus on Bekah and what she's facing. And those of us in Texas, especially South Texas, let's get out to her court dates and the other protests that she's leading. So thanks, everyone. Really appreciate everybody being here right now.
Yeah, thanks y'all. We'll give you 2 minutes back so you can make it to your next panel. Y'all take care. Thank you.
Bekah, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Well, are you actually? Oh, okay. Is that Diane? Who's the host?
Yes. Yes.
Are you okay? It was a little hectic at the beginning. We were like, "Wait, what's going on?"
Yeah. And let me stop the recording.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! Why is the recording? I have the button. Why is the recording not? Hopefully they can edit this.
Well, we don't have to talk now. Should we?
Okay.
We'll chat offline. But I'm glad it all worked out, and thank you for volunteering to help with this.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for all you're doing. Bye.
No problem.